Yeah, I prefer the great outdoors, which brings me to Earth Day. New CBS News polling finds most Americans think that climate change is an issue that people should proactively do something about. 58% of those surveyed say that we should try to do things to shape and change it. That view largely falls along partisan lines. For Democrats, climate change is something that needs to actively be dealt with right now. A majority of Republicans, however, believe that we should learn to adapt and make the best of it. But most Americans agree that they have a responsibility to take care of the environment. 72% think that their generation should make at least some sacrifices. Today is Earth Day, and the White House is marking it by hosting dozens of world leaders in a virtual climate summit. The White House says President Biden will announce a new goal for the U.S. to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions up to 52% from 2005 levels by 2030. The CBS News meteorologist and climate specialist Jeff Berardelli is here with us to talk more about this. Jeff, great seeing you. I mean, who could forget sort of early in the pandemic, a few months in, all those images from all around the world of what the planet looked like when we weren't out there driving our cars or getting in our boats. And, you know, some of them were not exactly accurate, but it was certainly refreshing to see Mother Nature sort of reclaim the planet, even if it was just a wee bit. So now we're coming to the, hopefully, fingers crossed, the end of this pandemic, and there's an opportunity for a reset, I think. A lot of people are thinking, do we want to go back to the normal, or should we be hammering out a new normal? So what can we expect to come out of this two-day event?
So Biden is trying to reassert U.S. leadership on the world stage, and it's not going to be all that easy for him, just considering that we dropped out for several years under President Trump in 2017 when he left the Paris Agreement. And by the way, I remind you that this is not the first time we've done that. We did it with the Kyoto Protocol back in 2001 when the Senate would not ratify it under President Bill Clinton. So here we are. Biden is reasserting leadership. He invited 40 leaders from around the world, and all of them are going to be participating in this. And of course, the highlight is going to be China participating in this, because right now, at least, they are the biggest emitter. So it looks like Biden actually does have some momentum, and that a lot of countries are willing to give the United States the benefit of the doubt, despite our flip-flopping back and forth. And what we're trying to do here, what the Biden administration is trying to do, is bolster efforts to get better commitments for COP26, which is the Conference of Parties. It's the big climate meeting in Glasgow, Scotland, later this year. It'll happen in November. It was supposed to happen last year. But every 5 years, if you're part of the Paris Accord, you need to come up with another commitment. Our commitment is pretty ambitious, but other countries are stepping up to the plate. And Europe is very, very interesting, because just yesterday, and we're going to talk about that, they stepped up to the plate probably to try to beat the United States, or at least to have their pledge in just in time for this summit, this leaders summit.
So, as we mentioned, President Biden will pledge to cut U.S. greenhouse gas emissions by around 50% from 2005 levels over the next decade. So I would hope that we're sort of well on our way, because it is 2021. You mentioned that, you know, I don't know if when you were talking about the goal being ambitious, if this is the goal. So I'll ask you, is this a realistic goal?
It's both very ambitious and it is somewhat realistic. So there have been 4 different analyses of if it's possible for us to get to 50% reductions by 2030. And all of them said it was possible. But that also requires us doing a lot. It requires lots of executive action. Biden's got that, right? He's signing lots of executive action. It also probably is going to require some legislation. That's still kind of up in the air as to whether a divided Congress is going to go along with it and help Biden to pass this climate legislation. It's going to require financial subsidies, and it's going to require investments in technologies. There are a lot of things, and it's going to require local and state governments to go along as well. So, you know, it's a mix of stuff. And if we do all that, yes, it is possible and it is realistic to reduce our emissions by 50%. However, it's a lot. It is a lot. And I'll say that, you know, up until this point, President Obama's pledge was to reduce emissions by around 26 to 28% by 2025. We are on track for that. A lot of that is due to the fact that we became, huge producers of natural gas, and natural gas emits a lot less than coal. So it's more coincidence than anything that we brought our emissions down. So we really have to actually try this time with real initiatives and real policy. We can get there, but it's going to take an all-of-government approach, which is what President Biden has.
China's president will be among the attendees at the Climate Change Summit. China's foreign minister says that he will be giving a speech. China, huge economy, huge polluter. How significant is it that China is getting involved in this?
I think this is very big, and it's really interesting because despite all the issues that we have, the United States and China, patent type issues and business type issues, human rights type issues, the United States and China decided to put those aside and compartmentalize climate change because they realize this affects everyone and this has to be dealt with by everybody. So I think that is tremendously significant that they're going to say, you know what, despite all of our differences, we need to work on this. And it's become a bit of a competition. So I have a piece of paper here. First of all, I want to show you or read this, which I thought was really interesting. President Xi said that his goal of going net zero by 2060 meant the shortest time in world history to go from a carbon peak to carbon neutrality. And the reason why I'm smiling is because this is becoming a competition. It's, a matter of pride. Which country or which region, the EU, the United States, or China, could take the lead on? It's not just economic, but it's also pride. But the other thing I want to mention, some of the comments from China, John Kerry's, the climate envoy, so his counterpart in China, said that the U.S. has done nothing. They've offered nothing to make up for the past lost 4 years. And he also said that the U.S. is like a naughty child trying to sneak back into school after cutting class. Just to give you an idea that there's competition, there's a little bit of back and forth, but at the same time, they're still willing to work on this together. I think that is very big.
Well, you know what? I'll take some sort of not so nice words, and China seems to be kind of doing that a lot actually lately. Some not so nice words if it's going to mean some nice changes that's going to help this planet. The EU, on the other hand, has reached a tentative climate deal to put the nations on a path to becoming climate neutral by 2050. So I have sort of multiple-part questions for this, because I think people hear these phrases, climate neutral, and they don't even know what it really means. So I'm going to ask you, what does that mean? Is this more than sort of jargon, gobbledygook, moving things around so it looks good on paper? Or is this like really, heading towards legitimate change? And if that is the case, what impact could it have on climate change? Would it be doing enough?
So first, let me compliment you on that question, because that was a very smart question. You clearly know your stuff. Is it moving stuff around, you asked? A little bit. That's one of the concerns, is that this is creative accounting, right? Because net zero means not just that we're going to emit zero. We're still going to be emitting possibly in 2050, still burning some oil, some gas. So we're still emitting, but at that point we expect that technology, carbon capture, will be enough to suck some back out of the atmosphere. And so that will be the zero, right? But we're betting on the technology being up to scale. And that's something that a lot of folks doubt. Also, there's carbon offsets. So right now, if a company can't afford or can't figure out how to decarbonize their electricity, let's say, that they use to make their products, what they can do is go to a farmer or go to a landowner and say, hey, plant more trees. That's going to suck carbon dioxide out. That's an easy way of them bringing their emissions down. But there are a lot of scientists that are skeptical that really works the way that we think it might, or hope that it would work. So there is a little bit of creative accounting. So that was a fantastic question, and it's a good question, and it remains to be seen.
Greta Thunberg is expected to testify before Congress today. Do we know what she's going to be talking about? And I will warn you, I might have to cut you off because I think the summit is about to begin.
Yeah, so of course, Greta is going to be doing her best to try to light a fire under all of the world leaders and get them to take this seriously. It is Greta's generation that is going to have to suffer from the stuff that we have done, and of course our parents and our grandparents. So it's time that we take responsibility and we try to put the next generations, our kids, grandkids, great-grandchildren, on a path to success. By the way, Anne-Marie, no matter what we really do, we're still baking in several feet of sea level rise over the next 100 years or so, and probably 20 or 30 feet of sea level rise over the next few centuries. We can't get away from that, but we just want to curb the pace of that. We want to slow the pace down so we can adapt over the course of generations.
Yeah, that's a great point. Jeff, thank you so much.